We are officially live on the Justin Palmer Show, first episode. Yohannes, Gebru, living from New York City, surviving COVID. How you doing, man?
Yes, sir. I'm doing great, man. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be the first one.
Thanks,
The
man.
first of many.
Yeah. Well, it came to me in a meditation. It was I was meditating about the podcast and who I wanted to be first, and I mentioned to you when we spoke on the phone earlier this week that conversation, one of the conversations that we had, was a big inspiration for what I'm doing right now. So I'm glad you're here.
I feel like the greatest way we can start it is by asking you why a podcast, why now, and what's the one goal or one mission you want to take away from this?
Ooh, you coming out firing, bro.
Of course, you know how it goes. Came out prepared.
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm writing a book right now. And that book is about the experience of me growing up without my father and kind of moving past that and finding peace in it. And as I was thinking about look, since I was a little kid, like with my friends, we used to like record radio shows on cassette tapes, which you probably don't even know what that is because you're young, bro.
I kind of know it, but I've never used. Wait, I think I've used it before. Yeah, I've used it before.
That cracks me up. Yeah, well, that's how we used to record. We didn't used to record over like the internet, with live cameras.
Did you record like songs and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, of course.
That was
my original obsession. So my first music album that I purchased, which I still don't know how my mom let me purchase this because I think I was probably 9 or 10. I bought the Beastie Boys' "License to Ill," which was like, do you know who the Beastie Boys are? Oh shit, dude.
Unfortunately, no.
That's okay. Hey, you learn some. The Beastie
I'm gonna check them out
Boys.
after this.
Oh yeah, the "License to Ill." I wasn't a fan of all their other albums, but this album, I just listened to it on repeat. I bought the CD and I saved up enough money to buy like a carousel compact disc player, a CD player, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, this was a cassette. Yeah, this one was the cassette. I got that other thing later. I got the cassette and I just listened to it in my room. I closed the door to my room and listened to it, and there's a song. Bro, you could never make this album today. They had a song called "Girls." That was like, "Girls to do the dishes, to clean up my room." Like it was crazy.
It was very cultural back then. Okay.
Yeah, it was. But it's just a fun song. They had a song. My favorite song, which it still is "You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party."
Okay.
Incredible.
Wait, I actually have a good question now. Remember you told me you had one song on repeat?
Yeah.
Is that the song?
No.
Oh,
I mix it up. When I run, I've been exploring when I run, just like listening to one song or listening to nothing or listening to a podcast or something. The song I had on the other day was "Man on a Mission," but I can't remember who it's by. It's on this Navy SEAL playlist on Spotify that my son loves.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I thought it was the song David Goggin was speaking of. It was one of the songs from like Rocky movie.
Oh yeah.
Where he was like, he literally just put it on repeat.
Yeah.
And he just go hammer. I thought you was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I was listening to a Rocky. Dude, I love that movie. Rocky. I showed that movie to my kids. I think about a year ago, and like the whole family movie night, we watched Rocky, and they want me to play the theme song when I take them to school.
Wait, what was it? Yeah, that's a good movie.
It's a great movie. It's the first one, good. Second one, incredible. And I can't remember what the others are like. We're gonna watch the whole thing as a family.
How many movies or how many sequels are there? Because I remember watching it, but I don't remember exactly what it was about because it was like 5 years ago, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's 4, and then the producers made a new one called Rocky Balboa, which is technically the 5th one, where he like comes out of retirement. It's basically what's happening in real life. Mike Tyson is coming out of retirement to fight.
Yo, I was gonna ask you the same thing. How do you feel about that?
Dude, I love Mike Tyson. I love him.
But Mike Tyson, yes, but boxing again? No.
I mean, why not?
Like
Why not?
So like the crazy part is I was listening to like one of his podcasts. He actually has a podcast too, Hot Box, and he was speaking about how like boxing brings out like this animal in you that you don't want to come out. Like it just like it brings out the evil in you because all you want to do is like destroy your opponent or like kill them to that extent. And he was literally saying how stepping away from boxing was like the greatest thing he ever did. He never felt like as a person. He always felt like an animal and stuff like that. So I was like, yo, he's in a good stage. And then I look back and he's like, I'm going to boxing again. I'm like, bro, you literally just took that shift and now you're going backward. But yeah, for that reason, that's one. And the second reason is like, I feel like the age. Like why now? Why risk it?
Sure. Well, I mean, have you ever seen any of his fights?
Of course.
Yeah.
Highlights.
Oh, this.
Him and Muhammad Ali. Highlights, of course.
Yeah. The highlights are the best part, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Our generation today.
Oh, bro, the build up.
Which is about it.
The build up to watch those fights when I was a kid was like, there wasn't very few things were on pay-per-view. Like you didn't have the UFC. This isn't, I'm speaking like I'm 100 fucking years old, but we had, I remember being so excited to watch those fights because he would just terrorize people. Like you come out, these fights wouldn't even last that long. Right. Yeah. Like when he was in his prime and he was a mess, right? According to him, right? Like he was a total mess. And, but I think it's like that kind of, your environment matters. And he was in a completely fucked up situation, right? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel like everything associated with that era, like that stage of his life, he explains it in like a negative way, except for the money part. Nobody's going to, argue with the money. But other than that, I thought it was just like, but it's pretty dope though. I feel like for the fans, especially, I'm going to watch it. I'm definitely going to watch it. But it was just I was more curious.
Yeah. Well, I think I listened to his podcast as well, and he's gone deep on like the spiritual journey or whatever you want to call it to kind of make peace with himself, right? In a lot of ways. Yeah. And I think that's allowing him. I mean, have you seen these videos of him training?
Yo, his Instagram page?
Yeah.
I was like, nah, bro, I wouldn't step near him. But like, I felt sorry for his trainer because like he was holding the bag, and I was like, bro, I wouldn't let him touch me, come near me like that. But
you remember the movie The Hangover when in that scene when he knocks out that dude and he's like, he still got it, Did you see that movie?
Hangover. I feel like it's familiar, but I probably don't remember.
Yeah.
But it sounds familiar though. But yeah, that's Mike Tyson for you.
I love Mike Tyson. I can't wait to see this fight. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully it's not like a train wreck.
I feel like I'll give them like a round or two. After that, they're going to be exhausted. And both of them around like 50 or like 40 or something like that.
I don't know, man.
You never know.
Tyson, when he was young, he tapped into something. I was listening to, I don't know if it was his podcast or somebody else's. He would run at 2:00 in the morning in the snow because he knew that his opponents wouldn't do it. And I'm like, dude, once you learn that mindset, it doesn't just disappear. No matter how much work you've done to make peace with yourself, that fucking animal instinct doesn't go away.
Yeah, right? only a few people have that. And you know what's crazy? I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he was talking about how like the greats, what they have to do to be the greats, and like their life stories or like their mentality. It doesn't sound too. I don't envy it, if that makes sense. Like Jordan, Kobe, all of them, like the truly greats. Like I look at them and say like they've sacrificed too much in life.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Like even Mike Tyson, it's just like his mentality, like what you have to tap in order to get that.
Yeah.
Only a few can like balance it out,
Yeah, I think there's different, like everyone has their own paths, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I think there's a difference in pursuing something purely out of ego or pursuing something out of like the craft and the art for it, right? You know what I mean? Like everyone experiences life based on their own level of consciousness, right?
That is true.
And you look at some whatever it is, athletes or artists or whatever, they're like channeling something totally different than what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But part of that is like your own judgment, right? If you were really passionate about something, how far would you go? Right.
That is a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a question everyone's trying to answer.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I feel like if you're like very passionate about something, because like you have to, in order to give something that much of your energy and that much of hard work, you have to love it. Like you have to like really have that passion for it. And I guess that's what boxing, basketball does for a lot of people, football.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you see it even like, did you see the Jordan documentary? Did you watch The Last Dance?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Same here.
Jordan, when
Man, that shit.
Bro. But
I mean,
even
you know what's
Jordan,
crazy?
Oh, so, go ahead.
The crazy part is like I literally had for a good amount of time I had LeBron favored from Jordan. I really thought LeBron he was tapping into something we weren't familiar with. After I watched that, I was like, wait, now I have to reconsider. Like it left me on, but yeah.
Yeah, Jordan. You see it in the documentary. I mean, he experienced it too, right? Like he wasn't. It wasn't just like this easy ride for him, right? He had something that he tapped into something that very few people ever tap into, right? But even when you hear him talk about basketball, he was like, I was just there's one part, I don't remember the episode, but there's one part where he was talking about like his family and friends were trying to get him to endorse this politician, and he didn't know and he didn't know the person, right? And he was like, look, I'm just trying to work in my craft. Like you're bringing me into the political sphere, and it became this thing about like race and like whatever. But he was just like, I'm focused on basketball, right? And so
that is true, but I feel like a lot of people fall him for that because he said he was like Republicans buy shoes too.
But he's right. He's right. I mean,
no, yeah, he's not lying. He's not lying. But like, I feel like so the thing. Like I feel like what I'm truly blessed for is freedom, right?
Yeah.
I can literally say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Right? But there are certain people that are held to like godly standards. Like Jordan, I feel like he can't joke around because like joking, like you have to insult somebody to joke, right? Like, and people, they don't want him to go to that certain extent, or like they don't want him to. I don't think they want him to say anything because like whatever he says, I feel like anybody can find anything to criticize him on and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I feel like if he would have said that and it was like his voice around, I feel like that's funny. I feel like that's hilarious. He is telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
Republicans buy shoes too. But since it was Jordan, I felt like he gets criticized and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's roll back so that people understand your background. Can you?
Sure.
You were born in Ethiopia.
I was born in Ethiopia. Yes, I was.
And you came here when you were 9 years old?
I was 9 years of age when I came to America.
And what?
A young immigrant.
Who'd you come with?
So, in retrospect, I feel like coming with a certain people that's what helped me the most. So I came with my mother, my sister, and my cousin. But my aunt, my uncle were already here.
Okay.
So we had a little nice family.
They were in New York?
Yeah, in Queens,
okay.
To be specific.
Okay. And did you come on a refugee program, or did you how did you guys like come to the United States?
Yeah, it was like my mom won like a lottery to bring us here. And since you already had like a family member connection, I think that just, it was an easy move.
And what have you talked to your mom about, like the decision to come here? Because 9, you're like, oh, okay, going to America. I mean, what was that like?
It's very interesting. It's I feel like you can look at it from a lot of perspectives. My mother, I don't think she wanted to come at all. She was very opposed to the idea. Even like speaking to her like nowadays, like we sometimes get into those conversations. Her whole mindset was basically, I will sacrifice my life for the sake of my kids. That was literally her mindset. Because if you really think about it, if you're at the age of 25 or 30 and you're managing, right, and you're like you have your family members, it wasn't nothing crazy that was going in the country at the time, but she also knew if we came to America, we would have better education opportunities. So like she was trying to debate those two, whether to stay with her family, her parents and stuff like that, or to bring us to a foreign land and allow us to, develop stuff like that. So that's
And do you think she still regrets it today, or she's like made peace with it?
for coming
Yeah.
here. Nah, I don't think she regrets it at all.
Yeah.
I feel like she saw what we became, and she sees how. I feel like my mother did a very good job of raising her two kids, right?
Yeah.
And so I think she is very. I think she's happy. Like every day, like she's very happy. She has a very positive mindset and stuff like that. And so she's definitely like joyful about coming here.
Yeah.
I think at the time, because if you really think about it, if somebody was telling you like there's a better opportunity and a better place, and you're already comfortable where you're at that time, you'll no, like why would I do that, right? If the grass isn't always greener on the other side, so she didn't want to jeopardize what she had.
Right.
But after speaking to my aunt and stuff like that, my aunt was the one actually like pushing her. She was like, "No, not for you, for the sake of the kids." And then when we came here, I'm pretty sure for everybody, the first couple of years, the adjustment years, they were very, very tough. And then after that, it became very easy for us.
Did you speak any English when you came here?
Hell no, man. I have so many stories about that. Like to this day, like, and the thing is, today, like I have a very positive mindset about everything. Like I literally, truly have like a good mindset about everything. I feel like the things I went through is what makes me who I am today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was truly a night. Like, close your eyes for 2 seconds and think of the worst thing that can happen to you. That was literally what was happening to me. That was literally it, like a nightmare, a truly nightmare.
Well, I mean, why was that so bad? Because not everybody, like, I don't know, we don't know who's going to listen to this, but some people have lived in the same place their whole lives, right? Some people grew up in America in one town and they've never left it, right? So what was so horrible about it? What were you experiencing?
So like I was listening. I don't know if it was a book or like somebody said like being able to like not speak a language is being able to hear and being deaf. Like literally, like you tap into this world where you're like deaf. Like people speak to you and you can't understand what they're saying. Like that's like try to imagine that somebody is literally speaking to you the whole day and you have no clue, nothing whatsoever, nothing. Like so, like the first time we came here, like at the age of 9, like my aunt, like I don't want to put this in like a negative way because it was really fun too, right? It was a balance of both. Like I had my uncle, he would take us to malls, like the biggest mall you've ever seen in your entire life. You can shop, like he gives you a budget. So like the weekend, oh blast, that was heaven for us. And then Monday would come around, and like I remember the first, I think it was like within like a month or two, right after we like became familiar with the place and stuff like that, my aunt like sat us down and she was like, you know what, I think it's a good time for you guys to go to school, start school in America, have she was like she explained it in a very fun way, learn the kids or like interact with a lot of kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the first day we went to school, like I remember holding my aunt's hand, and then she literally like gave me to the teacher, and I felt like I was going to prison. Like I said again, maximum security prison. And I was like, yo, this is like a big building. I don't know nobody. I can't understand the teacher. I can't understand the kids. I'm like 9 years old, and I see my aunt walking off. I'm like, nah, I'm going with her. I don't know you guys, but she spoke to me. She was like, this is something we have to do sooner or later, right? So that was the start of it. And that's the first time I went to prison.
What was it? Do you think that experience was impactful in who you are right now?
Yeah. I feel like if people are going, I don't want to sound I don't want to like hype myself up, but I feel like if people are going through like struggles and stuff like that, I feel like if you never been through a struggle, or like if you never been out of your comfort zone, you truly don't know what that is. Like, but like experiencing that, I kind of have like a feel of like what certain people go through and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. It's intense. I mean, I've seen it in my own kids just on the limited times. Like we moved in New York City and my son was in school for a couple years and going to a different school. He was young. He was like 5. And I didn't anticipate
the amount of impact,
how much it would impact him. And he got over it quick, right? Because kids can do that. But I was still surprised on how much it impacted him. Right.
Yeah. So the way I look at it now is like, so you know how David Goggin was talking about calluses and stuff like that, and like just building up, like if you don't struggle, like I feel like struggle is like, you know, what cements like you as a person, or like it makes you impactful.
Yeah.
And so like I think most of my struggles came when I came to America. The first few years, I feel like they were like cruel, right? And at the time, as a kid, you're like, yo, why the fuck is this shit happening to me? Like, why me, right? But any foreign person, anybody that wasn't born in America will tell you, or anybody that has never spoke a primary language will tell you, that shit wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I'm like, yo, like that shit is fun. Like that shit, like me and my sister sometimes like we like stay up and we talk about it and stuff like that, and it's like we laugh, like, you know, it's like good times. But at the time, shit,
but I think
I was like, take me back to.
I think I think people experience that in different ways, right? I'm sure like speaking the language is a very difficult barrier because like communication is such an important part of human development, right? Especially for kids. But people experience it in different ways. Like I didn't move to this country, but I had similar experiences of change where I was like, I was really uncomfortable with it as a kid. Right. And
for sure.
I want to keep going back to understand what was your life like in Ethiopia? You know what I mean? Like I've never been there. I've never been to Africa. I'm like I'm fascinated by the place, and I just want to understand like the transition coming there. Like, did you live in a neighborhood? Did you live in a house? Like, what was it like?
I have a lot of stories. I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask the questions, you know, make you feel important. That's the reason why I held back.
I don't need to feel important.
But, yeah, for sure. Now we all do sometimes, but my first point is like I don't think struggle comes in one form, right? Like I feel like everybody, if you're alive, then you're struggling somehow, one way or another. Like even if you're working and you don't like the job, or like you don't like some of the things, the obstacles that you're going through currently, I feel like that's struggle within itself, right? So like me speaking about my past struggle doesn't minimize anybody else's struggle or like the current situation they're in, right? So I feel like we all go through struggles in different ways. But to go back to Ethiopia, it's like a town, right? It's very different than America. I actually wrote a couple of papers, and one way I described it was like the people are like different over there. It's more like a community, if that makes sense. I feel like everybody in America is like individual, and that's not like a bad thing.
Sure.
Sometimes it is, but everybody is like kind of like trapped in their own world. Like everybody is like, you know, like don't bother me. I'm gonna go through my day. You do you, I'll do me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in Ethiopia, it's more of like a community. Like everybody know 90% of the people.
Were you in a small town? What were you in the capital?
Yeah.
Were you in?
Fortunately, I lived in both.
Okay.
So the interesting part is first I was born in a town called Tigray. Right, and this is actually interesting because they speak a different language than the one on the capital. So like I grew up until I think like the age of 5. Maybe I went to like 2nd grade over there, and then we moved to the capital, which was Addis Ababa, and I lived there for like 2 years. And this is the magic of kids. Like I picked up the language quick. Like within a year, I was able to adapt, adjust, all of that. It wasn't much of a difference. And then I came to America and I was like, nah, English is not for me. English is different. That's like, I learned one language over there, a second one. And I was like, this is easy. I can do it third time. I came to America. I was like, whoa.
Are the two languages similar? Like, do they share like alphabet or anything like that? Or is it?
Yes, I guess. I believe so. It's yeah, they do. But it's not the same, right? Maybe you have like 10 words that's like the
Mm.
same. But I guess you can make that point. They're way similar than English
Yeah.
is to them.
Do you
And so
still speak it?
I think that was the thing. I speak it like one of them. I speak it
Mm.
fluently, or at least I do. I think to myself. My family would beg to differ. I don't know why. The first language, I think if I had to put it in percentage, right? The second language, I think I can speak it like 75 to 80%.
Okay.
And the first one, I think I can speak it from like around 50%. Like I can communicate, I can have a conversation, but it's not going to be very fluent.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people when I went back, they picked up. They was like, okay, so where you're from? I was like, from here. Like, why you guys doing this to me? Like, because like they can catch my accent. So like, yeah.
What? So you went back this past summer, right? A year ago, basically.
Yeah, after I came here, I've been there like 2 times, and the latest one was during I think December, when it was spring break. Was it spring break or No, it wasn't spring
Winter break.
Oh, it was winter break. Yeah, it was winter break.
How long?
Spring break is like a week.
How long were you there for?
I believe it was a month and a half, a month and 2 weeks,
Okay.
approximately. I think it was.
What was it like going back?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally how you put it. Incredible.
What were you doing there?
I wasn't doing anything productive, but like it's like family. Like you just play, you meet family members, you just like go around town, you play pool, um, yeah, play pool, hang out with your friends and stuff like that. They show you like new places and stuff like that. Just catch up.
Cool. Were you in Addis Ababa or you were in the town where you were born?
I was in Addis Ababa for 2-3 days.
Okay.
And then we went to Tigray because like that's our primary location for like the family, right? So like my grandmother, my grandfather, and stuff like that, and like my uncle, aunts, they in Tigray, right? So like we usually go there, spend like way more time, and then we'll come to the capital and just like visit. We'll have like a couple of family members, but not as much. So we'll go there and visit them for like a week and a half and stuff like that. And so we spent majority of our time in the first one, Tigray.
Okay.
So that was kind of nice.
And is it like, does everybody live in like the same neighborhood over there? Like, or like in the same area? Or is it spread out?
Oh, the family?
Yeah. Like your grandparents?
Nah, yeah, so like the family is kind of like spread out to a certain extent. But like, do you consider like 2-hour travel spread out?
I mean, that's a long time, right?
Yeah, so I guess they're spread out.
Yeah. That's a long time.
So like even if they're not like family member, we'll go to like our primary residence, like where my grandfather and grandmother were, and we'll just like people will come there and stuff like that. You just it's a good time.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever want to go there?
I'm definitely interested in going to Africa for sure. I would love to see.
If you want to go to Ethiopia,
you're gonna be the hookup.
Text my phone. I'm gonna come with you. I'm gonna come with you. I'll introduce you to the whole family.
There we go, dude. I would love that.
Like, a couple of my friends actually told me like they really wanted to go, and I was like, yo, if y'all want to go, as soon as you guys book the plane, let me know. I'll pull up too.
Yeah, let's do that. It's a post-COVID event, right?
Yeah. Oh,
can you even travel? Can you even travel? Yeah, they won't let you in. Yeah.
Yeah, like my mother, like I was trying to get my mother, like my grandmother was a little sick over the past few weeks, and like my mother been like very worried, and so like I was trying to get her to like me and my sister are like older than 22 both, right? So I'm telling her like, you don't have nothing to worry about now. We're financially secured, so like you can go there, spend time with your mother, relax, and then come back. And she was like, they won't even let you in, like COVID. They probably would let you, but they probably make you quarantine for like a week.
Yeah. Well, that's not too bad, right? I mean, you come to Hawaii, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
The world is a crazy
unfortunately,
place.
We're not lucky. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not lucky as you are going there like before ahead of time.
Yeah. That was just
the greatest move ever.
The universe, man. The universe.
The timing. Yeah, I'm gonna start meditating more, man. I hope I get luckier than you, bro. Like,
It's been good for my family for sure. New York feels like a distant past, right? It does. Serious.
Yo, come on, man. I feel like New York is still better. It's okay.
I don't know that there's a better place like anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I'm reading Meta Human right now by Deepak Chopra. I think I mentioned this to you the other day. I'm almost done with it.
Yeah.
And I've felt this way for a long time, that like your experience is dictated by your level of consciousness, right? And I started thinking about that in the context of like where people decide to live physically. And I was like, man, physical places are a representation of the level of consciousness in a lot of ways, right? Like Hawaii is like peace. It's like the aloha spirit, you know, it's like love, respect everything, because everything is a part of life. So everything is one, right? New York is like bang, 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 go. Like I had some intense experiences before I left New York that were like, I was walking back from jujitsu, and I've never experienced something like this in my life. I walked by this homeless man that I would see every couple of days on the walk back to my apartment. And I literally like felt all of his pain. Like I could feel it. And it was too intense for me. I was like, man, it was crazy. I've never experienced something like that. I could feel it like deep inside. And I was like, man, I need to get to like a different place, right? I need a little more peacetime.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a good way to put it, though. Your environment, it reflects a lot on you.
Yeah, I think it's a level of consciousness, and it's not like a judgment thing. It's like I think COVID has created a lot of clarity for people about where they're located, right? Because it's given people the freedom to say, well, if I can do my job anywhere, which a lot of people can, not everyone, but a lot of people can. If I can do my job,
I'd rather be in this place.
Yeah. Where do I want to live? Right. I think we're going to see like big migration patterns in the United States, right? I don't know about other countries, but I think we're going to see big migration patterns to smaller, more community driven cities, like you were talking about in Ethiopia. Cause I agree with you. The like rugged individualism of America is part of what makes it incredible. It's also, I think people crave the connection of a community, right? And it was one thing we felt, especially as we had kids, that we have good friends in New York, but you change when you have kids, right? When you become a parent, things you start it's the start of the evolution of you seeing the world in a different way. And my wife and I saw things in a different way. And we felt like we didn't really have the community that we thought we did in New York, right? And then we started talking about what community do we want to be a part of, right? Let's create a community. And there's still like, look, I would love to have a scenario where I live around like 4 or 5 of my closest friends, right? But everybody's spread out, and so I connect with them in different ways. But I do think you can connect like with a family or some group of friends, right? And being able to move around. I think people have seen that with a lot of clarity, right? And I think that's a good thing.
The only pushback I have for that is I feel like a lot of people, like when certain things happen, they have like this mindset, like this breakthrough. They're like, okay, we're gonna do this. We want this. And then as soon as everything settled down, they're like, okay, let's just go back to the old ways. Like I feel like I truly feel like a lot of people, like they get up and ready and they're like, okay, I want to be comfortable. I want to be where I was at. I just want everything to go back to normal. So like,
right.
But for the brave ones like you, just get up and, that's not easy.
It's not easy. No, look, yes and no, right? It is. This kind of goes back to what you were talking about in terms of struggle, which is because I've had my fair share of what at the time, what I considered struggles. Right. It's like we were moving a lot. My mom was married like 4 or 5 times when I was a kid. So there was always transition. It would like, we were like food stamps, poor, in a house with another, 1-bedroom house with another family. And then 2 years later, She's married. There's step brothers and sisters. We have a big house. And then like 3 years later, we're going back to another house that's small, and it's just my mom and I, because my sister left. Like, it was a lot of transition. And
Yeah.
I look at it the same way you do, which is, man, that built this muscle within me to just like adapt quick, right? Just always adapt. But at the time, it felt like I was walking through cement, right? And even it was impacting me in ways that I didn't even understand until I took the time a couple years ago to sit back and reflect on like what's driving my life right now. And I think COVID it's an opportunity. If people aren't seizing on that opportunity, they should be, right? Because even I made big changes, and I'm still reflecting on what are other things that I want in this life. What does it mean to me? How can I create a better life for my family and all of those things, right?
For sure.
And I think struggle is relative, right? Is it really a struggle, right? Or did you just perceive it that way? If you had perceived it different, how would it be, right? If you choose to perceive it different now, how would it be?
That's an interesting concept. Because like if you truly, well, I don't want to, like, I actually wanted to go back to your story, and I was like, what set you down? What was the time where you sat down, right? What was the motive? What was the buildup where you sat down and you was able to like reflect back into, because everybody, like, we don't forget, right? But we don't truly sit down and reflect.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and like,
no, look, I think that's a great question. For me, it was honestly, I moved to New York with a duffel bag. I didn't know anybody, right? I started over because the situation that I had created around myself as a kid was not good, right? Like we were getting in trouble, right? Doing bad shit. I was getting arrested as a kid. And after I dropped out of high school, I was just like bouncing from job to job, like shitty jobs, right? I mean, like dishwasher, body shop, warehouse, right? Like I remember one job, I was like, at one point, I don't even know if they have this anymore. I had no money. I was going to Labor Ready, which was a daily labor place that you used to go to that mostly like homeless and transient people would go to get work, because I needed the money, right?
So that exists.
It does. Yeah. I don't know if it still does. I don't know if it still does.
I was telling my sister the same thing. I was like, yo, like I've never understood the concept, or like I never knew if that existed. So I was like, yo, they should have a place where a person that's not fortunate, or like a person that lost everything, can go back and try to like get a reset, right? Try to work during the day, and then try to, make a little bucks, and then, try to build their way up from that. At least it's a opportunity, it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Yeah, I know that exists.
I think some of the tech companies are trying to leverage off that, like Uber, or, I mean, you have to have a car. There is a barrier to entry for some of those things, but like TaskRabbit, like there's certain, you know what I mean?
So where you don't really have an employee.
Right.
But you have a worker.
Right.
Yo, Uber is very smart. Uber and Lyft. Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But California got them though. They was like, every driver is considered an employee now.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of states followed suit on that, right? Because it just they just got so big that it's unmanageable, right? Like
it's an interesting concept though.
Yeah, it look, no doubt. I mean, I spent a lot of time in San Francisco next to Uber's headquarters. I built a hotel close to that, right? And it's a fascinating place, man. Like Uber and Twitter, they have they're massive. They have so much presence in San Francisco.
And so before we change the subject to Uber, I'm gonna go back to like your life story, because I feel like your life story is like very fascinating and very like complex. Yeah. But so like before we go back to that, one question: do you think Uber employees are considered employees, or do you think they're not employees, where they're contractors? Kind of contractors.
I can see both sides of the argument, right? I don't know enough about it to really have a heavy opinion on it. I think at their scale today, you have to treat these people as employees, right?
But
If
since it's so big, don't you think it will be like very impactful? I'm pretty sure if they're employees, they're going to lay off a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
because
for
you
sure.
can't really have that many employees.
But it doesn't like look from an economic perspective. Does that even matter? The money is either flowing or it's not flowing, right? Like it's either even if they're independent contractors or employees, you can call them whatever you want. If they're earning an income and that's providing that family or that person stability, that's it. It doesn't matter what they're called. I think people get caught up in like, we need to be an employee because people want to identify with something. They want to say, I work for a brand, right? Because people are tribal.
That is true. That is true. But I feel like being an employee also comes in with like a lot of like, don't you have like some type of medical insurance or like retirement and stuff like that? It comes from like Uber and Lyft. So like what I thought, well, originally I was like, yo, Uber and Lyft, because we had like a discussion in school, and I was like, yo, they're very clever on like separating themselves and putting every responsibility on the driver. Like even imagine somebody gets in a crash, right? Like say they were drunk and they were driving or whatever, and they're working for Uber at the time. Technically speaking, Uber could have just said, no, he doesn't really work for us. He just uses our app to get customer, right? Separate themselves. Put that barrier right there. But if they're the employee, they can be responsible for anything, any crash, any accident that happens. That's not in their control. So I was like, yo, they're very smart for like separating themselves. But now like people catching on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, anytime you go in and like flip over an industry and turn it on it, which they did with the taxi industry, you're going to make waves. Right. And I don't know what the right answer. I have an opinion, which is like, you can provide benefits and still call people independent contractors. Like there's no labeling things doesn't matter. Right. You can provide the same set of things. I think at the end of the day, people fight for it because people get caught up in what they don't have. Right. Everyone's focused on what they don't have instead of focus on that is an opportunity for them to earn money with total freedom around your schedule. Right.
That's what I thought too. I was like, you can have like a real job and put that on your side hustle, but I guess it's getting a little more complex now.
Yeah. I think it's in a way it's human nature, right? It's reflective of the collective conscious level around work right now. Right. But going back to
let's go like I feel like all the way back, right?
Okay.
Originally your story, let's go back to Seattle or around there.
Yeah. Well, it was just, look, I was talking about when I left, right? And I was in a situation where the people that I chose to surround myself with, that was not reflective of what I wanted from my life, right? Even though I grew up with these things.
Do you blame yourself for that though? Yeah, like, because I was going to say, like, if you put somebody in an environment, right? I feel like it's very hard to be judgmental if you put them in that environment. Like, if they can't really, I know they control what they do, but like, if you really put somebody in like a toxic environment, a lot of what they're going to do is already dictated.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't blame anybody for it. It's just everyone starts at a different place, right? Everyone starts their consciousness at a different place, right? Mine, that was the lot that I experienced, right? And it wasn't, look, I've talked to people, like you read a book like David Goggins and I'm like, shit, I had it lucky, right?
Yeah.
Like the intro, I don't want to spoil that book for anybody who hasn't read it, but if you haven't read it, read it.
Yeah, spoil it. Because if they haven't read it, it's their fault. Come on, man.
No, I don't want to.
We can't be responsible for everybody.
I hear you, but look, as an author and an artist, I would rather have people go experience that for themselves because I don't want to pre-frame it in judgment. But all my point is, whatever your experience coming from Ethiopia and not speaking the language and the fear, like you said, you felt like it was going into a prison, right?
Maximum security.
But that's a construct of your mind, right?
Oh,
it's not a construct of reality, right? It's not reality. And so I experienced reality that I allowed to exist. I didn't have a role model around me, and I didn't identify with any of the male role models that my mom chose as life partners. I clashed with them heavily for the most part.
I can see that. I can actually, like, anybody that's tried to speak to my mother, like, I'm so grateful she never put me in that type of environment. Yeah. But like, even if somebody wanted to say hi, I just, for some reason, I'm like more closed off. Like,
yeah.
But I think that's in our nature, where you just like, you don't want nobody around your sister and mother.
Yeah.
Just something like, there's a war. I'm like, no, don't say hi to my mom.
Right.
Like, I don't know. But I'm like growing out of that. I feel like that was like in the past. So
no, I think it's natural, right? I was too. I was like very protective, and like I didn't even realize how much some of that stuff impacted me. I think your original question was something along the lines of like, when did I decide to take a step back? Right. And
okay, yeah.
So I'm going to make a short story long.
Nah, take your time. We got time.
When I moved to New York, it was like a blank slate for me. I didn't know anybody. It was starting over. I had rebuilt myself. Like, dude, when I went to apply for community college, I had a GED. They make you test to get into the community college. I tested below college level math and writing, right, and English. So I had to take courses to like get caught up on college level, right? Because I basically stopped going. I think I officially dropped out in 11th grade. That's when I like signed the paperwork, but I stopped going to school after 9th grade. So I was just skipping school and hanging out with my friends and doing fucking what kids in America and small towns do, right?
Yeah.
And that ability to wipe the slate clean, I was too young in my own thinking to be able to process anything. I was just like, fuck, I'm going to make it. This is New York City. It's a make it or break it culture. I know I can survive. Like I always had that. I had something in me that I was like, I know I can fucking push the limits and I can survive and I can thrive. Right. And so I started going and I literally did not stop. Like I worked when I was in school. I maintained like honor roll, all that stuff, because school was so important to me. And it was so important to me I thought it was myself at the time, but it wasn't, right? It was for external validation to prove that I could do it, right? That I wasn't just a total fuck up. And so graduated school, need money, lined up a job, got it going, right? And there's like, I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff, but I got a job.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That my first job was working at a private equity fund that was investing in commercial real estate. And I had a vision of like, I want to be an owner of real estate. I want to be a developer. And so I worked through the downturn at Lehman in the bankruptcy, started my own company. And just like, to me, it felt like since the day I hit the ground in New York City, which was, I was 23, to the day that I can pinpoint the day where I was like hitting rock bottom, right? Like I know it was when I closed the construction loan for the hotel, right? It was like the biggest moment.
Yeah. So like at your peak, came rock bottom.
Yes.
Why?
I don't know exactly. What I've processed is like, I hadn't dealt with the things that I needed to deal with internally, right? Which was primarily growing up without my father. And he was in and out, right? There would be like a year where he was around and then there would be like 2-3 years where he wasn't, right? And I lived with him briefly when I was a teenager and that was kind of a mess. And I moved back in with my mom and like, I hadn't taken the time to step back, but I knew like, dude, I was fucking drinking too much alcohol. I was, I wasn't taking the time to really step back and say, what's going on? Right. Like I'm driving all this stuff, but I'm closing like the biggest deal of my entire life and I'm fucking miserable. Right. Like I could barely go home and look at my wife and kids because I was I was in such a bad place. Right. And it's hard to experience because even when I told my wife this stuff years later, she was like, I never would have even believed that. Like you always walk around so confident. And I was like, I was confident in myself and I am confident in myself.
Yeah.
But I never really questioned, like, if all of this fails, all the stuff I was doing, everything that I had put so much into emotionally, if it fails, am I still worth something? Right. And subconsciously, I had just told myself, if it fails, you're a fuck up. Right. You already did this once. Right. You dropped out of high school. You couldn't even finish. Right. The self-hate game, I'm like a master. I was a master at. Right. And so when that moment came, I was like, man, I need to do something. And it's not like, a lot of people ask me, they're like, what was it? What was like one thing? What was like one big thing? And I'm like, I recognized that moment because it was an inflection point. And from there, I started doing things to help myself. I did like a program it's similar to something called Landmark, but you basically go like explore your values for like 5 days. Right. And it was intense. And that's where I realized, I was like, it was down the street from my hotel in San Francisco. So I had the space. I was away from my family because they were in New York. And I was asking that question of like, if this project fails, if my whole company fails, do I have value? Right. And I got to the point where I recognized, like, oh, regardless of what happens in your life, just your existence has value, regardless of my father ever shows up or not. That's something I don't control. Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start. It took me years to move past that and like get to a point of forgiveness, but that was the start for me. Right. It was
Yeah.
achievement at its highest, society's eyes, and rock bottom in the way that I felt.
It's
I don't know if
like
that makes
very
sense.
interesting because no, the whole thing makes sense. I feel like it makes sense to me, but it's like what you valued was like external, right? The security or like the money, right? But even if somebody was to guarantee you, like the building you owned, the business you owned, it was all going to be successful, would you have been better?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because what I think is like I feel like there was something personal, something you like needed to reflect on, like to get the value of yourself, rather than
Yeah.
like whatever the money or whatever the external things were going to bring. But that's
Yeah. I was just absorbed with like that achievement mindset of like, okay, what's next? Like close this. What's fucking next? Right. Like let's go. What else is like impossible that I can take on? Right. Like I would just look for stuff like that. But man, that is it's almost like a drug.
what's
Right.
next. Yeah,
That level,
the work, right?
that constant achievement
Yeah.
is like a drug. Like pursuing that, it's just another way for you to meet some of your basic needs, right? But you don't need to do it that way.
But do you think like working over time makes you forget about what the real problem is?
I think our society has a systemic problem in that we're training our children to be productive, right? And I'm not saying productivity is a bad thing, but the school system, the education system in America is set up to basically funnel you into the economy and into companies where you can earn a salary and you can get some certainty and then you're productive, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think that you, by nature of that structure, it creates a system around, well, what's everybody else doing? I need to go do that.
Yo, that's I feel like that's something everybody nowadays is struggling with. Everybody,
For sure.
I don't want to say everybody, but most people, right?
Yeah.
Because the other subject I actually wanted to tap in was like social media, right? And like I purposely deleted Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. Like maybe I tap into it and check like once a week, twice, maybe like once every other week, right? But one thing I've noticed is like I see my friends doing certain things, or like I see other people, and I get like into this loophole where I'm like constantly looking at their life rather than live mine, and just like start questioning what I'm doing, right? if I see somebody doing something incredible, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, they're at my age. Why am I not doing what they're doing, or why am I not on their level yet, right? And I feel like that's a struggle that a lot of people face today.
For sure. Well, social media, as like we all know this, it's completely transformed the way that people interact, right? And I mentioned this to you the other day when we were catching up. Social phones are a tool for us to use, not a tool that uses us, right? Like we are the consciousness, we are the intelligence behind the phone. So you use it,
okay,
right? You use it in whatever way benefits you. I'm not saying like, look, people make incredible livings off being an influencer or being like having all these followers and all that stuff. And like a big part of what I'm doing, I want that direct distribution, right? Because I don't want any middle people in between my message and, you know, who can consume it, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's also like the same way there's rating systems on movies, or like certain things aren't appropriate for kids of certain ages because your brain isn't fully developed. People are like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, 8-year-old has a phone, right? Even my kids, they're like, they talk about when they were washing my car for some money with the neighbor kids, like yesterday or the day before. And I hear them talking and they're like, let's get an iPhone 11 Pro with the money that we have. That's what they want.
But okay, so like, do your kids have iPhones or like phones?
No.
Social media?
They're too young. No, my son has an account that I set up for him, but we don't use it.
He doesn't use it at all?
No.
At what age will you allow them to use it, or like let them hands-on? You don't, you know.
Look, I'm a bit counterculture on this because I actually think that you do more harm than good by giving it to them too young. I feel like the need for a parent's like safety and security to know where their kid, like this is an incredible thing. You can track your kid. So like their safety is drastically improved, right? You can see where they are. I don't know that they're even capable of having one before they're like 14, 15, 16. Like when they get a car, you need a phone.
14,
right?
15, 16. That's like 3. You have to, so like you think 15 is like a good age, right?
I don't know. I think it's based on the responsibility of each individual child. Yeah. Like you know, if they're able to handle the responsibility and they're able to process it, then they should have the opportunity to get a phone.
It's going to be interesting if you give one kid at 12 and you give the other one at 16. Yeah. Don't do that to yourself, man. Just put an age limit. Okay, at 15, you all get phones. That's it. No arguing, no nothing. But this is the interesting thing, right? So like everybody, the creators of iPhone, right? Or the creators of like Snapchat, the creators of Twitter, the creators of Facebook, all of them allow you to use it at whatever age you want. But I was watching an interview and the lady was like, do you allow your kids to use it? And it was like, no. At like 12, no. I give them maybe like 5 to 10 minutes a day to play around, you know, with certain things, but no. And that's like very interesting how like you're putting a product out there, right? That you don't want to consume yourself, or like you don't want your family to consume, but you're allowing other people to consume it, or like other kids to consume it. And I don't think it's their problem, right? Because I feel like if you live in a capitalist world, it comes with like some type of damage. But I feel like, and I don't even think it's the parents being gullible or anything like that by giving their kids iPhone, right? But I feel like it's a lack of responsibility, or like they don't, in a way, if you think about it, it's more work to entertain your kid without an iPhone than with an iPhone. If that makes
100%.
sense, right?
I'm living it. Right.
Exactly, right? So you can speak better from this, but I've seen like, even in my own family, I've seen situations where people, like the kid would come and start nagging and they're just, you know, here's the phone. We're talking, you know, have a, you get that sense of the parent get that sense of freedom where they don't have to be responsible for the kid. So in a way, they use the tool to replace that responsibility. That's crazy.
It is wild. And trust me, as a parent, I've got 3 young kids, right? This transition, they're in school right now. It's incredible. I love it. It also requires, for me, I feel I have a duty to give them the full amount of my presence that I can, right? When I'm with them. It's not always perfect. It doesn't always happen, right? There's times where I need to get on the phone for work stuff, or I need, something I'm coordinating doesn't line up, and I need to take that time when they're with me. But I really consciously try to not be on the phone, not texting, not looking at anything. Literally, I'll put it in a drawer, right? Because they see it and they mimic that behavior, right? Like my
for sure.
Dude, I have an 18-month-old. She'll grab my wife's phone and walk around like this, pretending like she's on it, right? Like she's texting. And I'm like, she's 18 months. She picked up the phone.
Isn't that insane?
It's crazy. And so this summer, I took my two older ones, right? Almost 8 and 5. They were on their iPad a lot for virtual school because of COVID, right? More than they've ever been.
Of course.
They come out like fucking zombies after like an hour or two of this thing. They're like, I'm hungry, Garrett. Where is this? They're mean. They're like, they were mean to each other. They're like not grateful, and it's not who they are. I see them in normal life, and they don't behave that way all the time. I mean, they're kids, but
that's crazy.
I took their iPads away. I was like,
I guess that's what social media does. What, no school?
No, for the summer.
I should have been doing the same thing. My mother would have cut the internet off. I would have been like, okay, let's go. Last semester and it's canceled.
My son tried that. I was like, it's reading time. You got 1 hour reading a book, right? But look, I took it away, and even my wife was like, I need some time to be able to transition all the kids. And I was like, look, I'll help find that. I'll create the time. I'll work later in the evening. I'll adjust my schedule so that they can detach from this thing, because it's not healthy.
I think it's a drug that hasn't been labeled yet, but I feel like some people know it, right? Because I don't want to put it out there like a lot of people are like foolish or like they don't understand it. But even understanding it is not the problem. I understood social media, right? But like, so say like I'm going to sleep at like 12 o'clock or something like that. If I get on Instagram, best believe I'm on it for 1 hour at least, at minimum, because I'm just scrolling, just like, I don't even know why. Just like, it's a sense of like, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
And so just the dopamine, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun, right? You're like, you're exploring, right? It's not, it's not like social media has the ability to do incredible things. For sure. The things that it's being used for right now is not, I don't think it's like the highest potential, right? Like you don't structure your life in a way where you have 10,000 followers and you try to like interact, or 100,000 or 2 million, and you try to interact with all of them, right? You would never do. You don't have that many friends. You don't just pick up random phone calls from people that you don't know and listen to them, right? But in the comments section, that's what happens. You're literally, you have messages coming in from people you don't know, or that don't know you that well, or that like, it's not natural, right?
So this is an interesting conversation for me. Like, generally, this is an interesting conversation because sometimes I catch myself on YouTube, just watching, like, I'm big on comedy and stuff like that. And like, just like, other people my age, we like to watch YouTube or a lot of things, right? So sometimes I catch myself going to the comments before I watch the video or like the clip. And like, I like question that. I'm like, why do I care what other people have to say? Why don't I just watch it for myself, right?
Right.
And that's interesting. Like, I truly don't care. I don't even know who the people are.
Right.
But I tend to go into their comments and like read what they have to say before I watch the video.
Yeah, and there's always,
or like sometimes while I'm watching the video.
Yeah, and there's always 3 or 4 comments where like you get down and then people are going ape shit. People are like losing.
Yeah. No, people, like, I've learned like I was saying this to my friend. I feel like some people they have too much. How do you put this in a politically correct way? Like, they express their opinion too much. So my one of my views is like, if you have like a negative comment to say, if it's not like kind of like a productive comment, right? If it's not like credible, or if it's not coming from like a genuine place where you're like, yo, you can do better on that. If it's just like to shit on somebody, like, just don't say it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point, right? That's literally how I feel, right? So like, when I see like every like negative comments and stuff like that, I just think to myself like, Yo, that like I'll take those. Like if I was like Twitter, if I was Jack Dorsey, I'll just like, okay, your account deactivated for a week. Come back next week. Your account deactivated a week. Come back next week. Just like because I feel like it just spreading like a negative message rather than like do something productive with it. But that just I don't think about it too often. But that's something.
Yeah. Look, I think I heard it on Rogan. There was something similar. They were talking about it a couple of weeks ago where that's more of a reflection on that person than it is on anything else, right? It really, even when you see yourself, you experience yourself feeling those negative thoughts come from within you, right? That's a reflection of your character,
That's interesting.
right? It's your experience. It's not external. It's not like, oh, someone did this terrible thing to me. It's what within me is causing me to interpret it this way. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's a reflect. So I think of it as like one of the way I view it is like people throw rocks at like something that's higher than them, right? So it's in a way it's like I don't know if that's the quote, but like it's a way of bringing people down so we can be on like even playing field, right? If you don't look as good and I'm bad, like if I bring you down, we can. I don't have to go up. You can just come down, right? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I feel like in a way, a lot of people try to do that to a lot of people where it's just like bring them down so like they're more equivalent to them.
Yeah.
Rather than them working hard.
Well, I think that's the collective consciousness of our culture right now, right? Yeah. Is that people are so focused on attacking other people, they're not looking at themselves, right? It's the work starts right in front of you, right? That's where it starts. And that's what I learned. Right? I learned that it took me a long time, man. It took me a long time of going through blaming other people, blaming the fact that I grew up without my dad. That's why I would never have it the way I had such a fucking chip on my shoulder, right? Even when I wasn't aware of it, it was just there, right? Until you have to deal with it. You got to face it down, right? That's why Goggins was so powerful for me, because the physical abuse part I didn't relate to, but the mental part, I was like, shit, I thought I was the only person that experienced this, right?
But so like the last thing I wanted to say on that topic was I feel like sometimes social media is like a review page, right? So like have anybody in the world, right? Have their page. I feel like that's their review page, right? Or their comments, right? Because like if you think about it, right? If you buy something good from Amazon, right? A product, it works perfectly. 90% of the people, they're just going to, oh, nice, right? Move on. If it's bad, best believe you're gonna go back there and just write the worst review ever and just go in, like, oh, you guys paid me, I want my money back, and all of that good stuff, right? And so I feel like social media, in a way, is the same thing for people to leave bad reviews, but not like reflect or like leave honest reviews.
Totally. That's a great idea. Putting like a rating system, because at least like even going into Amazon, it's like you'll see a product with like 3,000 reviews and it's like 4.5 stars, and I always go look because I'm like I want to see what the one star was, and it's somebody losing their fucking mind.
Oh man, it's really the best. But like the best thing, I feel like the best thing I take away from that is like I have like a humorous sense in like reading comments. So like most of the stuff, it's like very entertaining in a way. It makes me laugh. Like it's like generally like funny. So like it's good to have like that mindset of like just being entertained by negative attitudes.
Yeah. Well, it's there's always good and evil. There's always light and dark. All those things exist, right? You gotta have that balance. It's I think it's gonna be the main issue of our time, right? And like I'm consciously raising my kids with that so that they can strip that system of thinking out of their mind, right? I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm doing it.
Do you think it's going to be like a pullback? Like a strong pullback, because I feel like if everybody gets like into social media like within a year or two, don't you think people are going to realize like, yo, enough, like just have that moment?
I don't know, man.
Or are we doing?
I don't know. With the election coming, and I'm not super political, right? Like I don't really follow. To be honest, I've watched the news probably 4 times since March, right? But like I've watched a show on current events because I just removed a lot of that from my life. Like I still see stuff every once in a while. My wife will tell me about something, but I don't consciously bring it into my window of life, right? Because it just doesn't do anything
Like,
for me.
The greatest thing ever is like, check this out. If there's a negative energy, right, and you don't know about it, you can't be affected by it. I feel like that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
If I feel like a politics is a no-win situation where you're like, I've in a way, and this is like pretty like bad thing to say, but like I kind of lost hope, you know, because not even in the U.S. Because I personally in the U.S. like I've seen worse in like other countries, like like see like the Middle East and stuff like that, and then now come to the U.S. Right? You're like way more grateful. You're like, okay, give me the worst of the U.S. rather than giving me the best of somewhere else, right? And so just people in general and people in power it makes me like a little. It just makes me a little question them a little.
For sure. Look, I think the U.S. is in a crazy place. Like I personally, like I love this country.
For sure.
I was able to become what I was able to become because of the freedoms allowed to individuals in this country. And as I mature, I see it's not so much like, oh, this side is bad and this side is good. We're losing the spirit of what this country is all about, right? And people are fixated on the past, and like you can't ever move forward when you're doing that as an individual or as a society, right? You can't move forward. And like what are your thoughts? You're 22, right? You're fresh out of college. You're an immigrant to this country. And what is your experience, right? What is your outlook for your life?
I feel like I'm 22, right? Which means I don't have that much experience. So you should lead the way. Okay. but my biggest takeaway is I feel like nowadays people don't talk to understand, right? I feel like in a way it became like a debate of, okay, I'm right. Before you even start the conversation, I'm right, and here's my points, right? Rather than, what are we talking about? Let's see if we can understand each other, right? So I feel like the whole mindset, it's a shift of like power and just like making yourself look right. Because I feel like there's nothing wrong with being wrong, right?
Totally.
But I feel like people are like, I don't even know if they're scared of being wrong, but they just don't want to be wrong at all times. And that's not humane. You cannot be not wrong at all times.
Yeah. Well, there's an obsession over being right, which is like, I think the people that are emerging as leaders of our culture are the people that are open-minded, right? And that are not judgmental. You know what I mean? Because they're open to learning. They're open to, you can't say, it's so easy to get fixated on like, oh, this is my view, so I'm going to support this, right?
But when you say leaders, what do you mean?
I don't mean politicians, right? I think my general view on politicians is that the entire system is fucked and corrupted. And I don't know when this happened, but at some point in time, the political life went from a public service to like something you do after you gain experience
to power grab,
to now
power grab.
It's not just a power grab, it's a career path, right? It's even worse. It's a fucking career path, right? So you have people that go into politics because they can earn money from it, right? It's supposed to be a public service.
You think so?
100%.
You really think?
100%.
That's interesting.
No, look at what happens. And it's
make money for yourself.
Yes, and for your family, you can cement a legacy. It's become a career path because of the lobbyist culture in this country, right?
Yeah, no, the lobbyist is. I took U.S. politics last semester, And I was just in awe the whole time. I was like, wait, we can do that? Oh wait, that could, what?
Right.
That's
But like, there's so much happening that it's difficult to police that situation. There has to be big changes, but in order to make changes, you have to get enough people that want to make changes in doing that as a career. And by and large, like who wants to be a fucking politician today, right? It's people that are looking for power.
I feel like it's a big problem if you have the people in power try to police themselves, right? If you have people making the rules that are going to break the rules,
it doesn't work.
That doesn't really,
it doesn't work.
Right? Like, how can you police them?
Yeah, I have a friend. He's going to be on the show in 2 weeks. He's running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. Right? He's a guy that I went to college with, and I like a big part of what he's trying to do is just eliminate some of the bullshit that's going on in Virginia, right? Like, which I didn't even know until I talked to him. And I was like, this would be a great show because he's a young guy, right? He's my age. He's experienced in commercial litigation, right? Like insurance companies suing each other, commercial disputes, all that stuff. He got into politics. He was head of the local, he's like president of the local chapter of NAACP. And now he's running for lieutenant governor. And I was like, look, what are you trying to do? His aspirations weren't federal, right? He was like, I'm not really interested. He's worked in the background in DC. And he's like, it's just, the system is designed so that you have to have seniority in order to have any real say in change. And I'm like, okay, so basically anybody that's been there for a long time is like, they're just looking to collect the toll, right? They're looking to get paid and, do what's best for the American people. But I don't think that's what's happening, right? If you take a look at what's going around, like healthcare's fucked. Education system's fucked, right? Not in some like catastrophical way, but they need big changes to. Yeah,
I feel like to American standard or to like the US standard, I feel like we can do so much better. But the problem is I see a lot of people compare the US to like other countries, right? Obviously, if you compare yourself to like a third world country or a developing country, you're going to look like you're doing fantastic. But I feel like if you can like compare yourself to your own standards or your capability, I feel like the US has like a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I still, in a way, I kind of have hope, just like. But after a short period of time, you kind of like, you become less interested, I guess, and it just becomes like white noise in the back.
Right.
There's nothing that can, like, if something was to happen tomorrow, I'll just say, oh, really? Okay. Like anything, like something crazy, I'll be like, yeah, I could imagine that. Like you can tell me the most outrageous thing, and I was like, yeah, maybe, yeah, it's possible. Like it's to that point, I'm like, yeah, maybe, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in a way,
it's true. Look, I think that's part of the reason why I started this podcast was to just put a non-political voice out into the universe to try to talk to people, open up. Like you said, people aren't having conversations. I want to open up the channel for communication, right? I'm going to talk to my friend who's going into politics, right? And his experiences about that. But politics are there to serve the people, right?
That's very interesting. I respect that so much about this podcast. But let me ask you one quick question before you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, do you think you can have a person that never experienced your lifestyle and expect them to understand it?
What do you mean by that?
So I feel like a lot of politicians, they've never experienced the normal or like the regular lifestyle of an American, right? So how can you expect them to like understand what the average American is going through if they've never been an average American?
You mean like they grow up privileged or something like that? Or they grow up?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I feel like the majority already was within that range. And I don't want to speak for all of them because I feel like some of them probably, came out the dirt. But I feel like most of them are wealthy, have enough money for like their own generations. Mm-hmm. So when they think of the average Americans, they don't understand them, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's in a sense, I kind of think that
it makes perfect sense. I think it's what's happening. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Is that what's driving politics is voters in urban markets that are educated and they're pouring money to push their own belief systems, right? And one thing I've talked to a few friends about is like, have you been to the middle of this country? It's fucking decimated, right? From the manufacturing base that it was earlier in the last century, it has been decimated. I was watching, I think it was like PBS, or it was some special on Flint, Michigan. And it was talking about Flint's where the water was contaminated with lead and like all this. There's been a bunch of issues there. In the like 60s and 70s, the median household income was something like $75,000 or $80,000 in today's dollars, right? The median household income today in today's dollars is $25,000.
Yeah.
It's been cut by one fourth.
Say goodbye to the middle, to the middle income family.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I feel like there are winners and losers. There's nothing in between. Like that's literally
right, and that has to be addressed somehow, right? There's a bunch of issues that have to be addressed, like the general. I'm a believer of I think Jordan Peterson said it best, which is equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Right? Equality of the opportunity to achieve the life that you want to achieve, but outcomes, you can't guarantee outcomes.
No, for sure. You can't really put the same amount of hour into everybody, or put the same amount of hardworking mentality to everybody.
Right.
So that's interesting though.
I mean, we'll see. I think 2020.
I'm thinking of it as in like, if a family has way more income, right? How can you guarantee a less fortunate family to have the same opportunities as those with that same amount of money? Yeah, I mean, I don't know the solution. I don't. I think. Yo, meditate on that. I will. Look, I've thought about running for office in my life, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to go. You serious?
Yeah, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want right now. I can't see that happening, right? The way that politics are right now, I can't see that. I would do it out of wanting to preserve what I think are the core values of this country, right? Which is that anybody from anywhere can come in and pursue. I'm a full believer in the American dream, right? I've lived it. I grew up on food stamps, single parent household, and I made something for myself that's a better quality of life, right? And I'm a believer that anyone can do that if that's what they want to do, right? I'm not saying that my path is the best or that it's the right path for everyone. It was the right path for me. But people have an illusion that you can't be what you want to be in this country anymore. It's an illusion. You can be whatever you want to be. That's what's great about this country. There's things that are going to threaten that for sure, always, right? I feel like everybody that speaks, and maybe that's to get like a point across, but I feel like everybody, especially politicians, they're a bit too extreme, right? So you would either have somebody that's saying, oh, everybody has equal opportunities, or you'll have somebody saying, oh, nobody has opportunities and stuff like that. So you're definitely right. The opportunity is there, right? But it's just harder for some people than others. Yeah. Which is, well, I think there's a separation from reality, which is what you pointed out, right? There's a separation from reality. Like the politicians, look, some of them I'm sure come from backgrounds where they had disadvantages, and like everyone has their own struggle, right? Even people that come from money, right? They have their own challenges. And I think we have to get away from that, like a person's identity, and try to preserve what are the core values of the country, right? I mean, your right to own property, to like make your own lot in life, right? Whatever that is. It's, if you want to work for a big company and have that security, the paycheck and benefits, and you love what you do, that's incredible, right? That's what you should do. Yeah. If you want to be creative and find creative ways, whether it's through entrepreneurship or art or whatever medium, right? That's what you should be able to do. Like I believe that people should be able to pursue what they want to pursue, because everyone is different. What's happening right now is like this funnel into the mainstream. Like everyone is supposed to be this way. You have to support this. If you don't support this,
yeah, bro. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. That's a fact right there, man. Yo, I've seen that too many times. So I was like, yo, if somebody has like a different belief, I don't care what the belief is, right? As long as you don't enforce it on me, I don't care. Like live your life, be happy, right? But that's yeah, everybody, I feel like the biggest thing is I feel like a lot of people are becoming like sheep's followers.
Yeah.
Right? And that's sad to say, but a lot of people truly they don't really question what's going on, or they don't question, like if they see a person that is supposed to represent them, they don't question what that person does or what that person says or what they stand for. They just close their eyes and just follow the blind person in front of them, and just
it's well, you're wise beyond your years for recognizing that.
No, but the thing is, like, I feel like the greatest strength a person can have is knowing that they have weaknesses. And I know, like, I have a lot of flaws. Like, I'm not as politically aware. Like, I'm not as educated and stuff like that. But I know that, and so like, I'm going to work on that for like years to come. But I feel like if we all can just come in terms with like, I'm not right all the time. I feel like that's a big step.
Yeah.
Just people to say, okay, I'm not right all the time. Or like my lifestyle does not apply to you. That's it.
Right. Which just sounds so simple when you say it.
Right? Doesn't it? Yeah, I swear to God, like sometimes you think to yourself and you just like, can a person really like I was watching a comedian, I forgot what his name was. I think it was Shay, but he said, I'm for equal rights. And then everybody started clapping. And he said, isn't it outrageous how who can have a stance that says, I'm for equal rights, and somebody is somewhere else saying, I beg to differ.
Right.
Like, that is, like, funny, but at the same time, so true. Like, you can have a stance that says, I'm for equality. Like, what?
Right.
That's where you start off.
Yeah.
That's
I think where I think I can impact it in my life, which is what I'm really interested in, is with the message of my journey, right? And I think growing up without your father is, from my experience, and you can see it in statistics, right? Which is, the statistics are horrendous, right? They're horrendous in favor. It's something like the Department of Justice quotes that people that grow up without their fathers are like 80% more likely to drop out of high school. They're like 60% more likely. I'm probably misquoting these, but they're like 60% more likely to commit suicide and just have these continual issues through life, right? And I think that I'm focused on that, and I think I can focus on that by having real conversations, right? And that's how you and I met, in a way, right? We're taking listeners on like this whirlwind tour, that's what life is about, right? This is how we met too. You were at work, right? I was in the cold plunge.
Yeah.
I say it was 1 minute.
We were supposed to tell the story. We
can tell it right now. People gotta wait. You want the juice? You gotta wait.
For sure. Yo, this is crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Wait, before we get to the story, you know what's crazy? I've never actually looked at the numbers. Like, because you just think it's normal. You just think it's like, it happens to everybody, right? But then when you look at the numbers and you tell yourself, like, if you grow up without a father, you're like 20 times more likely to end up dead, or 20 times more likely to end up in jail, drop out. That's some scary numbers. And I feel like you tackling that issue is big. Like,
it's when I took a step back on like, how do I want to spend my time? Like, how do I really want to spend my time? Do I want to go out and pursue like all these things that interest me? And I'm like, or do I want to pursue this thing that I'm real passionate about? Right. That it hits this shit hits home for me. Right. I know that the conversation, the specific conversation that sparked what became the idea for the book was that chat we had in my office last year around, like, you said something along the lines of like, that feeling when you're on the playground and you're looking around and like everybody has a dad and you're wondering like, why don't I have that? And that's the first conversation I've had in my life where I was like, I know exactly what you're fucking talking about in that experience.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like anybody that ever went through something similar can like pinpoint to the exact point. But for me as a kid, it was literally like a vivid point in my childhood where I was literally playing basketball. And you know, like if you go with somebody to play basketball, you sometimes tell them like, okay, look, I get the rebounds for you, you get the rebounds for me, you know, we switch and stuff like that. But you see these kids, they are shooting around and stuff like that, and their father is like consistently like, I don't like getting the rebound, man. Like if you and like can think about it, right? I don't mind it now that I'm older, but as a kid, if you are shooting around the park, right? If you want to work on your form, if you want to work on techniques, the biggest thing you can do is repetition, right? So like if you already have it, you just want to keep shooting it, right? It just feels you feel more in rhythm, right? But you going back to get the ball, it just kind of like f's that up for you a little, right? So like I was just shooting around one time and I was going back and forth to get the ball and stuff like that. And I was just thinking to myself, like, yo, why is nobody, you know, getting the basketball? Why isn't nobody rebounding for me and stuff like that? And that's like, and you see other kids with their father, with their parents and stuff like that. And I was like, that was the first time I was like, yo, I really don't have a dad.
How old were you?
I think about like 10, 11. So I felt the presence of a father once I started hitting teens, when I started playing basketball, and I've noticed like there was like even like a big brother. Like I used to actually sit, and this is very interesting for me because I've never actually like spoke. I'll give you a lot of credit for this. I've never spoke about this to anybody else this openly, except for you. Like I've never sat down to reflect. You always feel them, right? You have these feelings of like absent. You're like, oh fuck that person. They was never there for me. Why is this? Why is this? What's this void I'm feeling? But I've never spoke about it openly before, right? So when we was having this conversation, first and foremost, I thought you grew up with your father because I feel like it's just societal to think that.
Why?
Right?
Why'd you think that?
Caucasian, white. I just assumed. I don't know why. I just assumed. I was like, he probably. And the second thing, successful.
Yeah.
That's it. Two things. One was he's white. Second was he's successful. Must have like everything. Like I really did not know. And this is why I found your story very interesting because the first time I saw you, you just looked like you came from wealth. And you just I lied to you not. I lied to you not. You look like you came from wealth and just preserve the wealth, right? And so going back to the story, so like, you know, this is the first time I'm actually like open. And when we spoke about it and I was telling you how like sometimes I was shooting basketball and like there was nobody to get the rebound and you sit for a second, you're like, yo, you know, he's not. That's when it actually hits you as like he's not here, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was that was the moment where I was like, okay, he's not here.
Yeah. And you seem, when we spoke, you seem like you've already made peace with it in some ways, right? But we've talked, you know, as we've talked since we've known each other, there's still, if you're open to talking about it, there's still some challenges that you face with it, right?
So in a way, so to compare like this, say you have a girlfriend and she broke up with you and she said, I don't want to see you no more. Right? With a certain amount of time, you're going to come in terms of she don't want me. I have to kind of move on. Right? Like you can't change a person that doesn't like you. You can't force love on somebody that doesn't love you, right? And so just growing up without him, being in a whole different continent, I realized, you know, this wasn't meant to be, you know. One thing I'm grateful for is I've always had like father figures, but that dad was never there. And so I just felt like, you know, with time, you just kind of fill the void and you just like, you be grateful for what you have. Like I started reflecting on like other people, like you see somebody else saying, oh, I lost my mother, I lost my father, or like, you know, I don't have no family member. So you're like, whoa, I have my sister and I have my mother, I have other family members. I'm grateful for that. So like that was my me coming in peace with it. But the greatest thing I struggle with today, I feel like Kevin Hart said it the best. It was like, you can't force bond,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like there's no, I've tried. I promise I've tried. I promise I've tried. But it doesn't feel organic.
Yeah.
You know, like I can have a conversation with him, but it'll be, how's the family? How's life? How's your health? Do you need anything? That's it.
Yeah.
And I personally, I feel like if I can relate to a person, or if I'm like, you know, if it's a person that I enjoy being around, I can hold a conversation. You know, you can talk. But I just, with him, it just becomes like this empty, no conversation zone.
Mm.
Yeah, in a way.
And your father is still in Ethiopia?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when was it that you made, when you first made peace with it? Like, when was that, when you realized like the gratitude? Was there like, okay, I'm going to do, and I told you it's like hard to do. It's like, was there a moment, or was there a series of things? Like, was there some point where it opened up for you and you started opening up that?
So you probably can speak to this way better than I can, because I feel like to this point, I truly don't think I've came in peace with it, right? I've been able to like I'm not mad, you know. You know how you told me you believe in the butterfly effect. I do the same thing. I believe in the butterfly effect. So like sometimes I like, when me and my sister talking, I tell her like all the time, like, yo, if you would have stayed in our life, we would have probably still been in Ethiopia, happy, but not as successful or not as complete, you know. Like I wouldn't like, no matter what, I wouldn't give this life I have right now. Like my bond with my mother, impeccable. Like we have a true unique relationship, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that would have formed if he was in the picture. Like I would have probably been more, you know, towards him, or like I wouldn't gave my mother as much time, or my mother would have never gave me. I truly respect my mother for that, because I feel like when you have a single parent, I think they understand in their mind that you're missing something, right? And so what they try to do is they try to double down on what they're doing, and they try to play both roles.
Yeah.
And so my mother was like always trying to play. Like I remember one time, I told her I had a basketball game, and like she worked like double shift. She worked like 2 jobs, and at like 6 o'clock, she probably left the house at like 3:30 in the morning, came back at 6:30. Dropped her stuff, and then they came to my first basketball game, and I think it was the 8th grade. And like that's something I think that would have never happened if we weren't in the situation we were. So, to answer your question though, I don't know. I don't know what coming in peace means. Like I know. I guess if I had to pinpoint to one event, it was before we went back. I've realized that people are not here forever, right? So in a way, I was thinking of it like, I don't know why, but I started thinking like, what if my father was to pass away? Right? If he passed away, I'm going to live with that regret, not him. He'll be in a better place, but I'm going to have to live with that. My father was here, but I wasn't able to make things right with him. Right? So in a way, that at that moment I was able to, because the first time we went, like I kind of gave him the side eye, you know, like the you know, like, yo, stop bothering me type. You don't say it, right? But you know when you speaking to somebody and they're giving you that 1-2 answer, they kind of don't want to talk, right? That's how I treated him. But then I started realizing, like, if he passed away, like I think that was the point where I was like, okay, let me at least, you know, try to form some type of relationship. Make sure if he needs any financial help, or if he needs some type of help from me, and if I can do it, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So that way, if anything happens, at least I can tell myself I did everything I can. You know, I think that was the point. But to flip it back on you, when was the first time you felt the absent?
Similar to you, is like there's these moments, right? And there, for me, it was, I don't even know how old I was. I don't know if I was like 7 or 8, somewhere around there, maybe 9. I don't know. I was out on my friend's boat with his father, and it was just the three of us. And we were fishing, and my mom, like, same thing. Like, literally, I feel like I'm talking to myself when I was your age, right? Because that experience on the, like, that same realization of like, I don't want to go through life not knowing my father, right? I made that conscious decision probably about the same age, right? Like it was, I started making that decision. I was like, let me try, right? Like what can I do? Right. I kind of took it on myself. But going back to the story, we were fishing and my mom had given me a bobby pin as a fishing hook because she didn't even know how to fish, right? She was like, oh, you can hook a fish with that, right? Like it's literally a fucking sewing pin, right? And I remember
good luck.
I did not catch any fish.
That was my next question.
But I was trying to tie it on, and my friend's dad was like, do you want a hook? And I was like, no, I'm good with what I have. And I remember something in that moment was like, oh, I don't have what everybody else has, right? Or what I was telling myself everybody else has, right? There's a lot of people without father. There's a way too many people without a present father, right? But that's when I realized it is like, I don't know why it was just in that moment. I was like, okay, right. I am in this alone. I just have my mom. And I feel the same way about my mom. My mom's an incredible human. She did an incredible job of just like trying to teach me what's really important in life. Like my mom's a hippie and never really valued money the way that society does, right? She always valued family, being kind, connecting with people, helping people. I learned a lot of that stuff from my mom. And I think you just come to that point as everybody, it happens for everybody at different stages. And I think it's like about dealing with estranged relationships in general. The fatherhood component there's some like natural element where that something is not right in the natural order of the human experience when you don't have your parents, right? But it came in waves. Like when I had my son was the firstborn, and that I thought that I was like at peace or like over the fatherless thing. And I still didn't have that great of a relationship with my father. Like we would talk every few years, but it was the same. It's like you run out of things to talk about because you have no commonality. Like I would always reflect on like how odd it was that I felt this need to connect with him. But if you put that dynamic that he and I had in any other type of relationship besides a parent, you just would move on. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You have to. I feel like if that person is not there, you're kind of being forced.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, something within when my son was born, it opened up something else, and it took a while, right? Like I'm really conscious about being present with the kids, and like, my son, he's at almost 8 years old. He's taught me as much about life as I've taught him, maybe even more. Right. And that's when I hit that threshold. I think I told you earlier this year, I took my father to dinner. I was in LA on a business trip, and I took my father to dinner, and I was able to process it. Like at some point, in 2019, I was able to just process it. I moved past it, and I made like total peace with it, where I was like, look, man, I don't have any anger. I don't have any hate. I have an incredible family. I've blamed you for a bunch of things, but I haven't, thanked you for how resilient I am because of that experience. Right. And I just wanted you to hear that from me so that you understand that I'm welcoming you into my house to be a part of my family if you want. Right. But I don't have any expectation for it. And that was one of the most sobering, like, it's hard to describe that experience, right? Because I used every ounce of courage within me to have the conversation that I was trying to have since I was like 14. Right.
Yeah.
And I was just ready. I was at that level of like, it's a long time, right? It's a long time, right? Your life can go by like this and you don't realize how much of an impact that have. And like literally as soon as I told him, it was like, you could drop a pin and I would have heard it. I was so in tune. Like there was no noise in my head. Like there wasn't like, should I be saying this? Should I not be saying this? Like, what if he goes away?
Is that movie moments, right? Yeah.
It was total silence, just clarity. Right. And from then on, it was like I had done that with my mother already because I realized that I had blamed her for a lot of like instability in my life. And like a year earlier, like I had really blamed her for a lot of that. And I didn't realize it until I took the time, you know, I went and did some Tony Robbins stuff. And cause I was just searching for that answer. Right.
Bro, I once told my mother that she treated my sister better because she was a daughter and I was the son. Bro, I don't know what it was, but we got in a fight and I literally told my mother, I was like, oh, the reason why you're taking her side is because she's the female. Bro, I was going nuts, man. I was listening, but when you say you put a lot of pressure on your mother, yeah, man, I don't think anybody can say anything worse than say you treated them differently from the other child because of the gender. But I think I used to blame my mother for a lot of things. I used to blame my mother for giving me birth in Ethiopia. Yo, I lied to you not, man. There was a good point in my life where I kind of like had this like, you know, when you don't say nothing, but like you kind of like just push hate towards a certain person. I used to be like, yo, you a monster for doing this to me because like I lied to you not. This is a real story. When I came to America, like I felt like at a certain point, everything was too much for a kid to handle. Right? I felt like, and this is the greatest takeaway I have is right now I feel like I have two identities, right? And that is one of the greatest gift I can have right now, as of right now. But within that time, as a child, I used to feel like I had two incomplete identities. So I was never good here or I was never good here. So it just felt like, you know, like just make me one, you know? Don't split me into like two where when I go home, I have this culture, we eat different food, we talk different language. And then I would go to school and like the kids are speaking about complete different things, talking about pizza. What's pizza, huh? But like, and we're speaking different language and stuff like that. And so that used to like, I used to wonder, I used to be like, yo, why couldn't my mother just waited like 9 more years to come here and then give birth to me? So that way I'll be like an American or like leave me in my home country. So that way I'll be an Ethiopian. But now the greatest gift it gave me is I have like different perspectives, right? If I see like an obstacle or something like that, I will use that mindset of like, nah, that's not even, if you take that over there, that's not even an obstacle. That's like an easy walk in the park, right?
Yeah.
And then I can like look at certain situations from an American point of view because I'm technically Ethiopian American because I grew up with the culture of an American kid, right? So like most of my friends, all my friends technically are American, so like I'm accustomed to the American culture. But at the same time, when I go there, I'm like accustomed to that culture too.
Right.
So I think that's But when you talking about like how much you hated your mother at a certain point and you blamed her for it, I used to do the same thing. I used to think like my mother probably left because of her and stuff like that. But
yeah, it's
just dropped the bomb on
I mean, man, it's incredible for me to see you process that. You know, it's hard to explain because I feel like you are wise beyond your years, man. You're open, you want to learn, you want to grow. I felt that since we met, right? And I
think we should go back to that. I think that's a good point. Yeah. Let's go back to how we met.
Yeah, hang on. I just want to finish this thought because I think it's important for people. No, all good. That's what this is, a conversation, right?
Sure.
What I would challenge you on is you feel like there's two identities. And like I think a lot of people can relate with that, right? Whether you're an immigrant or like you have to be one person at home, you have to be one person at work, you have to be one person with your mom or your dad or your sister or like whatever. There's only one reality, right? Your reality is only one reality. Everything else is just constructed by your mind to try to protect your ego, right? It's for you to try to fit in, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay that it happened. And that allowed, I think it's incredible that you see it and that you're able to process that if you merge it into one, there was always only one. You just experienced some different things that got you here to this point, right? And I would also challenge you, I don't know if you've verbally apologized to your mother, but the power of expressing that to her in person is life-changing.
Yeah.
You know?
Like me and my mother has this open relationship where we can like literally talk about anything. But I don't know if we like, I guess she kind of knew it was the stage where I was just going through certain things and I would just like burst out. I wasn't as a bad kid. I wouldn't say that, right? So I was like always considerate, but I think but I'm probably gonna have that conversation. But like we have this conversation where we'll like reflect and we'll laugh at it and stuff like that. And so we've done that with like a lot of things. But I don't know if we had that. She'll tell me stories about like our fathers and stuff like that, our father and stuff like that. But I don't think we had that exact. That's a good challenge.
Yeah, I mean, look, take it when you're ready, right? That's something that you have to process on your own, right? And it doesn't have to be some big thing, right? I took the time to just have dinner with my mom, right? And it was something that looking back on it, I realized that needed to be done, right? Because my mom created a lot of opportunities for me just by showing me how to keep going in life, right? Which is pretty cool.
No. The power of a female is incredible. Man.
The love that you get from a mom is like, I'm trying to instill that in my son. Cause he's like, last night he had melted down completely. Cause he wanted to go, I was going to exercise in the evening and he's like, I want to go with you. And he was like losing it on my wife. And I was like, hey man, always just show your love to mom. Cause mama is always there for you. Right. I will be too, but mama's there for you in a different way, you know?
Yeah, I feel like we just have this bond with like the mother figure.
Bro, it literally, you come from within that source, right?
I guess that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Like we're a part of them. Well, I guess we're a part of both, but.
Yeah, man. I think we should end it on that, man. We literally just covered humanity. And
did we?
Yeah, we covered the human experience in its entirety. I think we should end it on that and have you back. People will hear the story of how we met on and on and on. I was thinking about maybe having you like do the audiobook for me on my book if you're interested.
You serious?
Yeah, why not? And make it like a conversation, like we do it together as part of the chapter and talk about it specifically and stuff. I don't know. I'm just ideating, right?
Yeah.
I thought that would be like a cool thing.
I feel like we can definitely do something with that.
We can do it. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I got to run to pick up my kids at school for the few days that they're in school before we go back to quarantine life.
Hey, man.
Like, it's all good. And look, seriously, man, I'm so thankful for the time and you being open about life. And like, I love witnessing the journey, man.
I'm greatly humbled, man. And I'm honored to be the first guest on this wonderful podcast that's going to, all the way up, man. Come on now.
Fire.
You know how we do.
Fire.
Stay hard, man.
Stay hard. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to stop the recording now.
All right.